Happy New Year, guys. We've come to another year for movies for people to talk about and to complain about. I can't wait. And 2024 did have some movies that had people talking, like The Wild Robot and Deadpool and Wolverine. And for this video, we are going to be looking at the films that are coming out in 2025, movies I am excited for, and some that I'm skeptical about. And for once, there's a movie on this film coming out in January that I'm excited for. And in case you don't know, January is the bad month for movies that come out and turn out to be completely terrible, with some exceptions, but most of the time January is just a terrible month for movies. Except this year's different because there is one film in January that I am very excited to see. But before I start talking about that film, I am briefly gonna mention some films that are announced to be in this year, but it's possible that some of them could be pushed back to 2026 or maybe even 2027, because there could be some movies that are on this list that could be pushed back to next year. And trust me, I've dealt with that issue before, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, then you know that I've had that problem. And for that reason, I'm only gonna go with 3 films that are possibly coming out this year, because again, they could get pushed back to either next year or in 2027, but at least some of them are confirmed to be released this year, hopefully. So the first announced one I'm gonna mention is Wake Up Dead Man, the third film in the Knives Out trilogy, an untitled Damien Chazelle film. I love Damien Chazelle as a director. I love his films Whiplash and La La Land, so I'm hoping that this film is really good. And Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, his take on the Frankenstein story made for Netflix. So let's hope at least those films will be coming out this year and not pushed back to next year. Now that we got those 3 films out of the way, we can now get to the films that are confirmed to be released in 2025. Starting off with the only January film I'm excited for, Wolfman, directed by Leigh Whannell. I'm excited for this film because Leigh Whannell has written some really good horror films like Insidious and Saw, and directed some really good movies like Upgrade and The Invisible Man. The trailers got me excited. I'm really liking the tone and the atmosphere the movie's going with, and I hope that this is another really good film for Leigh Whannell. Now for some films coming out in February, and the one I am excited for, but the one I am the most concerned about is Captain America Brave New World. Why am I concerned about this? Because this film went through a lot of hell when it was being made. It had a first test screening that didn't do well for a lot of people at that time. They had to do some reshoots and rewrites for the script, add some new characters they didn't add in before. And if a comic book movie like this is plagued with reshoots, that is a very bad sign. And that gives the film a lot of red flags, but I'm hoping this film proves me wrong, and I'm hoping that this is still a really good movie. It could be one of the best films like Winter Soldier, or it could be on par with movies like Thor Love and Thunder and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. The Gorge, directed by Scott Derrickson, who directed movies like Sinister, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Doctor Strange, and The Black Phone. It stars Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy and Sigourney Weaver. I'm a fan of all 3 of those actors, and I'm a fan of Scott Derrickson as well when it comes to horror. Paddington in Peru. I love the first 2 Paddington films, and even though this one is from a different director, I'm still excited for it, and I'm hoping this is just a lot of fun. Novocaine, a movie starring Jack Quaid as a character that doesn't feel any pain when he gets hurt trying to save his girlfriend from some bad guys. That gets me interested. Sinners is directed by Ryan Coogler, who did the 2 Black Panther films and Creed, and this film is about 2 twin brothers that come back to their hometown and find something sinister killing people. And there are rumors that this is possibly a vampire movie, which that will be interesting to see him do because he hasn't directed a horror movie yet. And this movie also stars Michael B. Jordan and Haley Steinfeld, 2 actors I do really love, and I'm excited for this one. Mickey 17, Bong Joon-ho's next film after Parasite. It stars a really good cast, and a trailer makes it look like it's gonna be a fun comedy, and anything that's directed by Bong Joon-ho, I'm excited for it. The Accountant 2. I think the first First Accountant is a very underrated drama, and this film has the same crew and Ben Affleck back for the story, and I'm interested. Thunderbolts, a movie that stars a bunch of criminals that we've seen in some of the Marvel films and shows come together for one big film. And some of these characters I am excited to see again, and some that I'm not so much excited to see again. The trailers made it look like it was going to be a fun movie, and I'm hoping that this film is a lot of fun to watch, so we'll see what happens there. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is the 8th Mission Impossible film with Tom Cruise, and possibly the final film, or so they say. I love the Mission Impossible films. I love almost all of the films in the franchise, and I'm hoping that this film is not only a great Mission Impossible film, but it gives the franchise a very satisfying conclusion. The Life of Chuck, directed by Mike Flanagan, who did movies like Doctor Sleep, Oculus, Ouija Origin of Evil, Gerald's Game, and The Haunting of Hill House. I really don't know much about this film, other than it's based off of Stephen King's novella, and Mike Flanagan has adapted a lot of his books into film before, and it also has a really talented cast, and I'm hoping that this film is really good, because Mike Flanagan has yet to make a film that disappoints me. 28 years later, I've only seen 28 Days Later once, a few years ago, and I haven't watched 28 Weeks Later yet, and I wasn't really interested in seeing this film after I found out about it. But then they released the first trailer for the film, and I'm like, okay, I'll rewatch the first film and give the second film a chance just to catch up. F1 is a racing film that stars Brad Pitt, and it's from the director of Top Gun Maverick, and that's enough to get me excited. Here's the film I am excited for, but also very concerned about it, and that film is Superman, directed by James Gunn. I love James Gunn, I loved a lot of his films, and I'm a fan of the Superman character, and I really want this film to be good, because in the past few years, DC has been a big downfall with their recent films. I'm hoping that this film ends up being a really good one, because this is supposed to be the start of James Gunn's new DC universe, and I don't want this to suck. Please be good. Please be good. Don't let me down. Fantastic Four: First Steps is the 5th Fantastic Four film after the 90s film, the 2 Tim Story films, and Fantastic, which unfortunately none of them were any good. But I'm hoping that this film will change that, and I'm hoping that this will be our first good Fantastic Four film, because I do love the cast that they have involved, and I'm hoping that this film does learn from some of the mistakes that the previous films did. An untitled Paul Thomas Anderson film starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Not only am I a fan of both of these two, but this was also filmed in Sacramento, and I was born and raised in Sacramento, so that's enough for me to get me excited, because you don't really see a lot of films that take place during Sacramento or were filmed in Sacramento, at least most of the time, because we do get some short films that were made in Sacramento, and of course Lady Bird takes place in Sacramento, but you still don't get a lot of films that were made in Sacramento, or at least ones that were made by big companies or big directors. The Black Phone 2, Scott Derrickson also directs this film, who also did the first Black Phone, which I didn't get a chance to review that one when it first came out, but I did watch it later on, and that is a really good horror movie. I'm hoping that this film is really good as well. Michael is a biopic about Michael Jackson, directed by Anton Fuqua, who did movies like Training Day. I do love a lot of Michael Jackson's songs, and I think Anton Fuqua is a talented director, so that's enough to get me interested. Predator: Badlands. Dan Trachtenberg comes back to direct this film after directing Prey, which I really enjoyed, and I'm hoping that this film is really good. The Running Man is a remake of the 80s action film, except this one stars Glenn Powell, and it's directed by one of my favorite directors of all time, Edgar Wright. Shut up and take my money. Just shut up and take my money. Plus, any movie that's directed by Edgar Wright, I'm always going to be excited for it, and he hasn't made a bad movie yet, so I'm hoping that this film is also a great one. Zootopia 2. I love the first Zootopia film. It's one of my favorite Disney films, and it's one of the more mature Disney films in regards to the story and its characters. And I really hope that this film is really good because of my love for the first film film, but I know that when it comes to Disney and their sequels, they don't always live up to their original films. But I'm hoping that this film is an exception, and I really want this to do well because Disney still hasn't been doing well with their recent films. If you look at some of their other films like Moana 2 or Wish, but I'm hoping that this film is still really good. And finally, the SpongeBob movie, The Search for SquarePants. Now I know it's weird that I'm adding this film on this list because the last SpongeBob film from 2024 was absolutely terrible, and you would think that I wouldn't be excited for any more SpongeBob films after that, but this one is an exception. Why is that? Because Derek Drayman is directing and writing this film. If you don't know who that is, he wrote some of the older episodes of SpongeBob from the early days and wrote the first movie from 2004, so that actually gives me hope for this film, and I'm hoping that this is just a really fun watch as someone that loves SpongeBob growing up. And those are the films I am both excited and skeptical about for 2025. And if you were expecting movies like the new Jurassic World film to be on there, it's not going to be on there. Even though I love the first Jurassic Park, I haven't enjoyed any of the Jurassic World films, so that's the reason why I'm not adding this new one on here. But keep in mind, even though a lot of these films are coming out this year, it's possible that some of them could get pushed back to next year, so look out for that reason for whenever that happens for either of these films. And some of these films could be great, and there are of course going to be some that are going to disappoint me, which that just happens when you get excited for a film. So guys, which films are you excited for? Let me know what they are in the comments below. And as always, if you like this video, then please leave a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing because it helps my channel grow. Hit the notification bell so you know what other videos I'm posting. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.